Y'all planning for this?
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, where we begin to unpack a lot of the theory that we talk about at the Perfect RIA and talk about how we put that into application for you as a business owner and entrepreneur and for your team that is desperately trying to rally behind your goals and your intentions. But you, like most business owners, might be failing to do an up periscope evaluation of whether or not that they are on track as a team member and if they really understand the purpose of the value that you're providing and what you're doing as a practice owner. If you think your team members just automatically get this, you're about to be in for a rude awakening. Every now and then, as business owners, we have to do what we call as an up periscope. Floyd Chalansky mentions this whenever we go scuba diving. Every now and then, it's a good idea to do an up periscope. Just pop your head up to the surface, make sure the dive flag is still where it should be, and that you are on course, regardless of what your instruments are saying down at the bottom. And like scuba diving, we need to periodically do an up periscope as a team, as business owners with those leads in our office. So at Shalansky & Associates, we're a registered investment and advisory firm in Anchorage, Alaska. Our parents started the practice back in 1981, and they started implementing Surge way back when. Because my dad wanted to be able to concentrate his appointments when he was back to back. He found that his highest performance days is when he was seeing clients on a back-to-back basis. And if he had one or two appointments kind of sprinkled in or no appointments at all, he found his productivity really declining. So we set up a surge schedule back then, and we've been finessing it ever since into what we believe is now perhaps not perfect, because we know that we are in the pursuit of perfection at the Perfect RA and not perfect ourselves, but a really good pattern of surging. And that means that every mid-March to mid-April, we have a surge. We have many surges in between during the summer months because we live in Alaska and most people want to be out hunting and fishing and camping and hiking and doing all of those things that are the quintessential Alaskan experience. And then we have a big surge in October, between mid-October and mid-November, right before the holidays, because scheduling people intermittently during the holidays can be really challenging and difficult. Those are our big surges. If you are looking to implement surge in your practice, do not play around with the dates. Please use the dates that we have provided. We have spent many years banging our head against the wall trying to find the perfect one. Now, you might say to me, Jamie, that makes sense for you because you are in Alaska and I am in Midwest Ohio. No, this works for everyone, every place, every time. And the reason being is because mid-March to mid-April, what is every single legal United States resident gearing up to go do? We're going to pay our taxes. And so we're already in the thralls of getting all of our information together for our CPAs or TurboTax or whoever is preparing that tax return. And then during the summer months, most people go on holiday. They go visit family. They have summer vacation. If their kids are out of school, or maybe they have adult children, now they have grandkids that they're helping watch. And so that applies to everyone across the United States. And in the fall, October, November, why do we do that surge schedule? Because as the holidays approach, that is when people start coming together and they really start thinking about their affairs and whether or not they have everything in order. And regrettably, for some inexplicable reason, there's also a lot of tragedy during that time of year, which really brings to surface a lot of the, do I have life insurance in place? What happens if my spouse dies? Will my kids be taken care of? If you have a center of influence of attorneys, go ask them when their busiest time of year is if they are estate planners, and it's going to be right around the holidays. I often tell clients, I often joke with them that we like to get this done, and so do estate planning attorneys, because if we did this in June, you absolutely love all your kids, adult children and grandchildren. But once you come together for those holidays and spend a lot of time together, you might want to make some changes. And everyone gets a good laugh. But it's so true, and it's true across the country, that we want to have these hyper-focused times. There's a reason that they make sense, and that there's a reason that they add value to our clients' lives. It's not just centered around us and when we would like to have these surge periods. This is all about when can we deliver the absolute most value to our clients, because now our surge schedule is going to coincide with parts of their lives that they already have in motion. So Jamie, what do we do in between those surge periods? That seems like a lot of time off for my team, especially if I'm in an enterprise office. So as financial advisors, we normally have two types of offices. We have an enterprise office like Shalansky & Associates, where we have multiple financial planners, and we have a hybrid working arrangement. In fact, I was just discussing this with one of our business owners. If you have a lot of work from home employees, you need to institute a hybrid working arrangement. If you are a member of the Perfect RIA through one of our membership levels, Backstage Pass or Invictus, email us and I will give you a copy of my hybrid working arrangement for you to talk to your attorneys and compliance officer and see if it's applicable to you. And these are people, I call it a hybrid work arrangement because they are allowed to work from their houses most of the time. However, some of the time I do require them to come back to our physical location in Alaska, no matter where they're at, such as in Spring Surge. Spring Surge, right before, it's our biggest surge. And the reason it's our biggest surge is because normally our team is inundated with paperwork from clients, because as I mentioned, we do this specifically because clients are in the thralls of getting all their document preparation ready for their CPAs. So of course, coincidentally, they're going to make sure that we have a copy of it as well. So it tends to be a lot more laborious for our team members to go through Spring Surge during tax time. And so as we gear up for that, right before it happens, the week before it happens, we have a company retreat. We're going to go to Girdwood, Alaska at Alyeska, and all of our team members and their families are going to come, and we are going to play in the snow. We're going to ice skate. We're going to snow bike. We're going to ski. We're going to snowboard. We're going to have pizza and beer at nighttime together. We're going to swim with the kids in the pool. We are going to do all of those recreational activities that strengthen us as a team, remind us about why we're doing this, and really bringing those trust factors together. There's a lot of psychology around that people that play together have higher levels of trust with one another. So it's really imperative for us as a team that the work we're doing is very serious. We're very intentional about how it gets done, but we also want to play together. We also want to have those moments of joy of being around one another and get to know each other's families a little bit better. The family plays an intricate part in surging. We'll talk a lot about that during this month of surge as we unpack and unfold and discuss this subject. But the family is an intricate part, and we want them to see for themselves the other team members and what goes in this and how we design things. Do we make part of it a working day? Yes, we make 4 hours of it as a working time period. This year's the first year we're going to bring in an outside coach. I'll let you know how that goes. Now, another important factor about surging is that the relationship managers and the operations different surge schedules. Now, our office all surges at the exact same time. However, the relationship managers and the operations are going to be busy at different times. And I want to explain that a little bit more. So our relationship managers, these are the people. They are going to have the most points of contact, most likely with the client, even more points of contact than the financial advisor has with the client on a regular basis. These are oftentimes not licensed people. They do not give financial advice. So what do? They are masters of the calendar. They do all of the scheduling for every single thing that happens in the financial advisor's client space world all of the time, as well with the centers of influence. They go and gather documentation. They do high touches. They work with the client on a one-on-one basis if they have questions. So they almost all are paraplanners, but they do not provide financial advice. These are just people that are really good at connecting with other people. So 2 weeks prior to that spring surge or fall surge, our relationship managers are going to be super busy because they are confirming and making sure everyone is scheduled and everyone is getting the documents that the financial advisor requested ahead of time uploaded into our encrypted site on box.com. And then that way the client can securely transfer us information back and forth. So we give the relationship managers a punch list for all clients, no matter what, of things that we want to see during that surge. And then they go out and they start collecting those items. They don't guess what those items are. We tell them what they are, and they make sure that the client is able to upload those 72 business hours before their meeting. Now, if they wait to the morning of or the night before, that's fine. That's totally okay. We're not going to cancel that meeting. But we have set the tone that the financial advisor has most likely not had time to review those documents because they were not uploaded in time. So that relationship manager, the second we start appointments, even though we're based in Anchorage, Alaska, about 46% of our clients are in the lower 48. And so as they're in the contiguous United States or living abroad, we still have to facilitate those needs, and they still get us. These are not people that used to live in Alaska and moved out. Part of our marketing with Plan Your Federal Retirement is that we work with anyone in the United States. And so we have a lot of remote practices. That's also why I know this works for everyone across the board, because we have half of our clients almost living in the contiguous United States. In addition to confirming our appointments and making sure our document preparation and everything is ready for that appointment, our relationship managers 2 weeks after the client appointment will also follow back up with the client. They're following up to make sure 2 things are happening. 1, we did what we said we were going to do in that meeting, and they're going to give them a status update. Because we are surging and we're having clients back to back, we might not have a lot of things done necessarily, but we're going to touch base with that client. And then the second thing, when I conclude most of my meetings, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you're anything like me, I think that I have every single one of my questions answered when we're sitting here in this conference room, but my magical pavement outside, the second I touch my feet to that ground, I remember all the things that I meant to ask you. If that ever ends up happening to you, no worries. My team is going to reach out to you in a couple of weeks. Just jot them down and we'll make sure we get your questions answered. And then, of course, if you want to email in to clients@shalansky.com, you are more than welcome to, and we'll make sure we get those addressed. Does that mean I'm scheduling a second meeting with clients? Not necessarily. Depends on the complexity of their question. Sometimes I do have to have a second meeting. Sometimes somebody has accelerated their retirement date, and maybe we cut the years down by 2 or 3, and now we got to come in here and make some changes. So I might have a second appointment date, but if I don't, then they're going to see them during mini surge or the next scheduled surge. I don't get a lot of pushback from clients around this. So my relationship managers, they're super busy before the surge and they're super busy during the surge. But as that surge comes to its conclusion, they're pretty much done. But this is when my operations team starts getting really, really busy. So operations personnel, they are the ones that are responsible for the movement of money. Some of my operations personnel are licensed and some are not licensed. So that depends on the level. They are not client facing. They don't necessarily meet with the client and give advice. They execute on advice. So they could have client service appointment meetings in which they are following the financial advisor's advice and facilitating maybe a 401k transfer with the client. And that is a normal protocol in our office for our operations team to assist the client in those needs, because we speak the lingo, we speak the language, we know what we're talking about. We know the difference between a transfer and a rollover. If oftentimes we leave this just to the client, they'll accidentally say a rollover. They're not going to get any pushback from a custodian on that. The custodian's going to execute exactly what the client asked for. So we like to be on the phone call. We like to facilitate that transfer, and just so we can have multiple ears. I've never once had a client tell me, no, that's something I don't want. They see it as tremendous value. They're super, super appreciative that we're willing to jump on the phone with them. And of course, on our passion and our mission to deliver massive value, we go one step further, and we will call and get the custodian or whoever we need to make that transfer with on the phone. We will have them bring up all of the client's information. They can't tell us anything, but we'll facilitate all that, dial to these different prompts, get a different service agent who can help you, different departments. And then we conference call the client in so they haven't gone through any of that hassle for them. So during our client surge, we are going to generate a lot of work for our operations personnel. One of the rules that our operations team gave to us and we accommodate is that we do not do any same-day paperwork. Same-day paperwork is like ringing a gong, and only bad things will come of this. And so we have a policy in our office that we don't do same-day paperwork. So if a financial advisor is sitting with a client and they want to open up accounts, we conclude the meeting. We say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, so we're going to have our operations team get to you no later than Wednesday of next week, and they're going to let you know what documentation is necessary. We'll provide that to you either virtually, or if you care to, if you're in the Anchorage area, come down and book a service appointment with one of our team members. You'll go into the service conference room, and then they'll make sure they walk through all of the forms. If you do not do this, if you ask for same-day paperwork, then what is going to happen is a miserable client experience, because one, you're going to be dragging on that appointment, making idle chit-chat while you're waiting for your operation operations team to stop being 1, annoyed, 2, frustrated, and 3, preparing work that they're having to copy and paste really quick. Now, in most cases, what they'll do is they'll just give you blank forms because they didn't have time to pre-fill out all of the information. And yes, at Shalansky & Associates, we deliver massive value by pre-populating the forms with the client information that we already have in file in our CRM Infinity. If you have ever been to a doctor's office and be handed a stack of paperwork on a clipboard in which they're asking for the same fields to be handwritten over and over and over again, you know how inefficient that system is and how absurd it is to have to write your same information 3 or 4 times. So anytime we generate paperwork, we do the legwork for the client. We fill out as much of the information as we possibly can if we have it on file for the client. We highlight areas that we might be missing, and we make sure we draw their attention. We flag the paperwork with pink stickies for females and blue stickies for males. That is generally how we do things. I don't care if you feel that is color bias. I have a lot of diverse clients. Not a single one of them have ever said, this is so insulting to me. They are both like, thank you. Now I know the difference between where to sign and where my spouse needs to sign. We are looking for small, efficient ways to make it easier and more beneficial for the client to understand what is in front of them and what is required of them. We are making those small steps like, yes, color coding where they need to sign on the documents. This has been a tremendous value add. We've done it for 7 years, and it has been phenomenal success with all clients. They love knowing the difference and can quickly and easily navigate through the paperwork without asking a lot of questions. And this is really important because a lot of our clients are of the demographic where they have to reach for their glasses. We've seen, but not implemented in our own office, and I think this is a genius idea. A financial advisor has a little coffee cup full of different prescription strength glasses, the kind that you get in a 3-pack from Costco, because oftentimes when he's having some of his clients fill out paperwork, they forgot their reading glasses and can't see what's in front of them. So here they are. They have some sanitary wipes and they can use those glasses. Genius idea. We just haven't executed in our own office, but it's definitely something that I want to do. So if we have asked for that same day paperwork, it is going to be sloppy at best and a miserable client experience guaranteed. So instead, we say to our operations team, hey, we're going to set these new accounts. We're going to do this transfer. This is what's going to happen, etc. Could you please reach out to the client and either make an appointment or get them the documentation? And then we put it in their hands to do this. This is also really powerful for our operations team because just because I just asked them to complete something doesn't mean that they are not already in the thralls of doing something else. And they're responsible for the movement of money. So they're really detailed and organized about the work that they do. If I come back and I ring that freaking gong and I say, stop everything that you're doing and needs no concentration, I've devalued the work that they were already doing. I value rubbed against them because they pride themselves on being accurate and being detail oriented. And now I've disrupted that process for them. And so instead in our office, if you break a process in our office, that financial advisors and team members pay a penalty. And the financial advisors pay a $10,000 penalty for breaking a process in our office because we are so tied to our convictions around our policies and processes because it creates a really harmonious work environment for everyone when we adhere to them. And does that mean that sometimes I break the process? Yeah, sometimes it is completely worth it to break the process. But because we have a no BS policy in our practice, our team members, such as what happened when I asked for same-day paperwork one time, was able to look at me and said, Jamie, yes, I'm happy to comply with that because in our office, you have to lead with the yes. You have to lead with the yes. And so she said, yes, I am happy to get you that paperwork. This will break a process. Would you like me to proceed? And that was her way of cautioning me and saying, listen, I'm going to do what you told me to do, but there might be a price for doing it. And then I get to make the determination as an adult and say, yeah, absolutely. It's worth $10,000. I need you to do this. Or I say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Client, they're really tied up right now. I would hate for you to have to spend an hour and a half waiting in my lobby. Why don't I have them reach out to you no later than next Wednesday, and they can schedule a convenient time for you guys to come down here, and they'll have most of that paperwork pre-filled out for you. Oh, great. We're just going to walk over to the mall and get some coffee. That's wonderful. Blah, blah, blah. And they exit. So only once have we had to do same day paperwork. And when we do, our team member knows it's significant enough and there's a significant reason why we're asking for that. And so as we're going through surge, our operations team members who are responsible for the movement of money are going to be super, super busy. And they're going to remain busy probably 3 weeks after that surge concludes, because now they still have to process all of that work. And after the conclusion of every single one of our meetings, we're doing a really great memo using our SOAP format. SOAP stands for Subjective, Objective, Assessment, and Plan. Our financial advisors, every single time we talk to a client, whether we're picking up our phone to return a client's quick question, quote unquote, or we are in a mini surge or we're in a regular surge, we are always going to do a memo to record. And that memo to record is going to follow our SOAP format: Subjective, Objective, Assessment, and Plan. I have a whole training tutorial based on this so that when advisors, regardless of how much time that they've had in the industry, come work with us, they are following that exact same format. We are hiring financial advisors. We have a greater demand than we can keep up with, as Floyd, mine, and Micah's books are full. And so as we onboard new financial advisors, we love their industry experience, but they have to do it our way. Our way works, so they have to do it our way. And so we use that SOAP format for our team members so that we can have really clear action items about what our team needs to go do after that meeting. And so I wouldn't say, Charnel, go do this. If I use somebody's name in a memorandum, that is because it is specific to them as a human being, and I need only them to go do it. But most of the time, I will say, operations, please set up new Roth IRA accounts, and then they'll execute that action. That memorandum is going to take time because all of a sudden, in our office, the Shalanskys, we see 7 to 11 appointments a day, depending on how they're scheduled. And that is every single day, Monday through Friday, for 4 weeks for our Shalanskys. The other financial advisors in our office, we try to have them around 5, and they have to work their way up. Normally, we block off Fridays because this is a stamina. This is an endurance. This isn't something that you can just jump right into. Anyone that's taken years or months off of the gym know that you cannot go back and start lifting like you're 20 years old again. You're going to get yourself hurt. So we really try to have them work up their endurance, work up their cadence to get to that level, and show them ways of being successful, because they have to continue to deliver value in that appointment. And if you have appointment fatigue or exhaustion, or you're burned out from the week because you just saw 40 different households in the last few days, you're going to be of zero value to that client, and that's a disservice. So a lot of times we'll block off that Friday for advisors that join us. And so that shortens their surge time. It reduces the amount of clients that they're able to see because they're already seeing fewer than Shalanskys are. But we're going to be working up to that. We're going to be working up to that stamina, because if we can do it, so can anyone else. There's nothing so special or unique about being a Shalansky that somebody else can't go achieve if their ego is checked and they follow what we tell them to go do. There's a reason we tell you to take our surge dates. There's a reason we tell you to use our SOAP format in a memorandum, because we've already tried it. We've already tested it. We've already run it through thousands and thousands of people and had those hard experiences of delivering zero value to a client, and the client telling us exactly what they thought of us, and then us going back and revising our processes. So let's make sure we save you that embarrassment and that emotional fatigue of having that happen, and just do what works. Stop challenging the system. Just do what works. I have had some financial advisors say, I'm not asking my team when they're going to get me something. They're going to do it when I tell them to. Okay, somebody start the slow clap for the guy that's going to be in a constant hiring phase of his career. I get that. I understand that you're employing people and you're paying them a wage and you're taking a risk on them, and that they need to do the work that's assigned to them. But you also have to listen to their feedback. And I really value a trusted team member's feedback. Now, if you're brand new in my practice and you just started and you've got a whole journal down, in fact, when I hire someone, this is a rule. So if you're in the hiring phase, make this a rule for you too. And I do it for all the businesses that I own. I say that first 6 months, you're going to be so excited. The first 90 days is a honeymoon period. And I want you to have all of these ideas and things that you would change and things you want to implement. And I want you to write them down. I want you to keep a diary. I want you to write all of them down. And then after you have been here, between that 90 days and that 6 months, I want you to revisit every single one of them and cross off the ones that you understand were just totally far-fetched or completely bogus because you didn't know your head from your feet. You're brand new. You didn't know what was expected. Cross those ones off your list, and then let's talk about the ones that you do want to implement, and let's bring it through the ringer. I'm not omnipotent. Employees bring me better suggestions all of the time, and I am so impressed and proud of them because they're implementing their professional development. They are leveling up their game. They are collaborating at a level that I have never seen across industries. And so I love when they give me feedback. And so when my operations team member raises that red flag and says, listen, it really stresses me out when you come out of a meeting and ask me for same-day paperwork because you have set me up for failure. Because now I'm going to give the client something that's sloppy, or the very worst thing in the entire world that could ever happen is I'm going to give you, Mr. or Mrs. Financial Advisor, a stack of blank forms, and you're going to go in that conference room and you're going to try to help that client fill those forms out. Financial advisors have zero business filling out paperwork. We are so bad at it. If there was a competition about being bad at paperwork, we would come across first place next to doctors every single time. So we don't do it in our office. Financial advisors do not sit down and fill out paperwork that is sloppy at best and is going to require that client to come back in, sign multiple forms, initial multiple changes, or get entirely rejected. We are going to lengthen the process. We're going to deliver absolutely no value. And to boot, as a cherry on top, we just pissed off our operations team because we put them in an uncomfortable position because they feel that those errors, because they're the ones picking up the phone to call the client, are their responsibility, that they shouldn't have happened because they were the ones that were doing the paperwork in the first place and handed that financial advisor the blank forms. So we don't do it. We listen to their feedback and say, great, some of the times it's time sensitive. How do I articulate that to you? How do you know best when you have to get these forms done? And so we give things dates and deadlines. I'm a huge believer in Parkinson's Law, which says the work takes up the time allotted for it. And that means that if I tell a client, hey, we're going to get this estate planning done. It's October. Let's make sure that we get this in place in case something happens to either one of you, as some tragedy at some unknown time befalls you. We want to make sure we have this done. Guess when it'll get done? Maybe never. But if I sit with a client in October, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is the most difficult part of financial planning. So we do this first in our practice because honest to God, if something happens to one or both of you, none of our financial planning matters if this isn't in place. So we do estate planning right off the get-go. It is the first thing that we check mark. And we say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it is now October. We want these 100% done by March 1st. So here's what this looks like. Your drafts are going to come to you in December. You need to edit through those and make any revisions or changes. Because October, November, and December are so busy for estate planners, that the attorneys, then you're probably not going to hear much from them in January. That's okay. Our office will bug them a little bit and we'll bug you too. But by March 1st, we want an executed copy of the 4 documents we require you to have in our practice on file. If something happens, we want to know that we have these. It's my control tick. I'm so aggressive about this because I believe in your financial plan so much. I don't want to have to be sitting here with your adult children telling them how you neglected areas of your estate and now they have to go through a lengthy probate process. And clients love it. They say, no, we've been meaning to do this for years. We had a will done when our first child was born. We've never gone back and revisited it. We've never looked at it again. We just assumed everything was in order. I'd really appreciate a second set of eyes. And then we go scrape all of their estate planning beneficiaries, and I want to see documentation. And I say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I trust you. Your word is great, but I don't know if the bank teller really understood what you said when you were going to put a payable on death clause on your account. So I want to see a statement from the bank saying that a POD is put on your account, and I want to know that they did their job and that we're not going to have to worry about that during the period where your spouse should be going through the grieving stages. Clients love this because you are advocating for their ultimate success. You are protecting, you are taking care of, and you are making sure that their family unit is provided for in the time of somebody's untimely death. So we want to set these stages for excellent success. And that means listening to the feedback from your team and also compromising with them and creating rules. The reason that we created the rules around processes and penalties for breaking those processes is because we needed our team to understand that sometimes sometimes we're going to have rigid flexibility. Sometimes these processes are going to have to be broken in some small fraction. Now, not the entire process, just the exemption of like, hey, we don't ask for same day paperwork, no problem. We don't make next day appointments. That's one for our relationship managers. Unless there's a client crisis and we have defined what that emergency is in our communication policy with our relationship managers, we do not make next day appointments. Why? Because they are sloppy at best. Nobody has an agenda. Nobody sent documents. Nobody has anything together. And the advisor has zero time to prepare for that appointment. So we don't make next day appointments that are not crises written out, defined on our communication policy. And this was provided as feedback from our relationship managers that said, listen, you'll ask me to book an appointment. I'll call the client. The client says, great, tomorrow at 9 a.m. works. I'll put it on the calendar. And I feel that I've done my job because I did what you asked me to do. But then after that appointment and maybe 30 minutes before that appointment, you're barking at me because we don't have documents together. I don't have reports for that client. And every single client appointment, they're going to want you to go over their investments. That's what happens, right? And so we as financial advisors want to make sure we always have our reporting documentation. We always have a copy of their one-page plan, and that we make sure we have that in front of us and any documentation that the client wants us to review. And if we do not have those documents, it is not the client's fault. It is most likely the relationship manager's fault, or that is how they were interpreting it. And so we listened to that feedback and we said, great, wonderful. We don't want next day appointments. Let's make that a policy in our firm. No next day appointments that are not one of the crises articulated on our communication policy. And we all agreed on that. Now, does that mean sometimes we're going to break that policy because something's going to happen? Yes, but there's a fine and penalty for doing so that we have listened to one another and developed things that allow us to execute the work that we have been given, to be involved in the work that we are given, so that we can deliver the most amount of value to our clients on a regular basis. All right, TPR Nation, you know that the Perfect RIA is 100% about the pursuit of perfection. We are looking for a community to join us and collaborate and take away the smoke and mirrors behind financial advising, and so that we can all build a more harmonious community for our clients that delivers massive value, allows us to spend more time with our families outside of the office, and allows us to be highly profitable for the work that we do. So we want you to take action. We want you to take steps. We want you to listen to this podcast and immediately go and implement. I've had a lot of questions lately that said, listen, I'm a financial advisor. I've been listening to your podcast for a really long time. I think it's phenomenal. I wish my team could listen to this too. Well, great. Have them go to their device wherever they listen to podcasts and carve out time that they can sit down and listen to these and learn about the different ways that we implement this. I am a big advocate that people must be involved in the work that they do if you're expecting them to be high performers. There's no room on my team for B team members. There's no room for a C squad. I only want high achieving performers. And that means I'm going to set them up for expectations that they can deliver on. So let's dive into those action items right now. If you have hybrid workers, if you have some that work from home all of the time or some of the time, you need to have a hybrid working arrangement in place. If you are a Backstage Pass or Invictus member, email us. I'll give you a copy of the one that I use. It's an ever-evolving document. We used to say you could work from anywhere. We had a client want to go to a country and not a client, had an employee that wanted to go to a country and work from there for about 3 months. It was on the terrorist watch list. So I had to revise it and say you can work from anywhere that's not on the terrorist watch list. So it's ever evolving. You can use it as a framework, run it by an attorney. We are not attorneys here at the Perfect RIA, and then implement it into your own practice. I tuck mine right inside the employment agreement. So after they sign the employment agreement, they also have to sign the hybrid working arrangement, outlines exactly what I expect from them and what they can expect from me in return for that. Second action item, you need to implement Surge. If you are not surging yet in your practice, what are you doing with your life? This is a really high value for clients. Most of the time we meet with financial advisors, they are terrified that they are going to lose clients, be broke, and be living in a van down by the river if they implement Surge, because it means that they will be inaccessible to clients. No, that is not what it means. It does not mean you are inaccessible to clients. It means instead you are setting really good, disciplined, focused time on meeting with your clients so that you can deliver the most amount of value to them during periods of the calendar year that make the most sense. So do not sit there and look at your calendar and hem and haw about what dates you're going to implement Surge. Take hours. Do our surge schedule. Implement that first and you can finesse it later. We are big advocates on doing what works. So if you have something that's been tried and true and massaged for 40 years into a perfect schedule, take that so that you are not getting the negative feedback from your clients necessarily. So again, we have surge schedule set up in our office mid-March to mid-April. Why? Because that makes the most sense as people begin to prepare their tax documents for their CPA. It is a powerful surge. Surge always starts 2 weeks before for our RMs, and then it lasts 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the load of accounts and transfers that we have for our operations team. And then we sprinkle in mini surges, so that way our team knows when the next time they can get us in front of a client. And then our next big surge is October to November. We do mid-October to mid-November, right before the holidays. Why? Because that's also when the kids are back in school, people are back from summer holidays, the year's winding down. We do a lot of Roth conversions during that time. We do a lot of tax planning during that time, and we do a lot of estate planning during that time. So use those timeframes because they work for clients. They work best for clients. They're really advantageous for you. All right, third action item that you can take and immediately have action on, whether you're a solo practitioner and it's you and one assistant, or if you're in an enterprise office where you have multiple advisors and multiple team members, we recommend doing the pods. It works really successful for us, and it doesn't create an environment of competitiveness. We did that in the 90s where you had like a service assistant and a sales assistant for one financial advisor. And then if a client called and didn't get their financial advisor, service assistant, or sales assistant, the employee just wouldn't help the client. We didn't like that model at all, so we quickly abandoned it. And we went back to the pods. And so that anyone in the RMs can help any one of the financial advisors' clients because they are all firm clients. We want to really stress that they are firm clients, not individual clients. And so as we established that, we sat down with our team and we said, okay, give us feedback, right? This is where are we breaking down? What policies do you need to have in place in order to be your absolute best? Most financial advisors, we think at a very high level and we think very fast and we want fast actions to happen, but that's not always where our team members are. So if you value that team member, you need to sit down and start creating policies and make them simple. Don't overcomplicate them because you will begin to evolve them. And if you start to hear little comments about where they get the most frustrated at when they work with you, have a conversation around that. Be open to the give and take to create a dynamic workforce that really benefits the clients, delivers the most amount of value to them, but then also makes it really harmonious for the people that are doing the work you're asking them to do to feel that they're a part of it and feel the impact that they're making. We have one of the greatest jobs in the entire world to be a financial advisor because money is so intricately and emotionally wrapped up in everything that we do. We put a lot of value and a lot of emotion behind money, and it affects us in every stage of our lives. We get to work with clients throughout an entire lifetime. We have clients that we help them get their first jobs and set up their first 401k plans that are now at the stages where they're about to retire and they've amassed this wealth and are sitting in our conference room with tears and saying, I never thought I would have this. My parents never had this. I never came from anyone with money. I feel so guilty amongst my friends because I know that we're in such a better position for them. We have clients that we sit there and argue with them that they don't need a fly coach anymore, that they should upgrade and do their luxury of having first class tickets to go to Europe because they work so hard their entire lives and they need to spend some of the wealth that they've accumulated. These are powerful conversations that we as financial advisors get to be a part of. These are lives that we're massively impacting for generation after generation. You want to talk about real change in the entire world? Become a financial advisor and watch that ripple effect as it impacts the kids that are growing up. Yeah, I'm here working with you now because my mom and dad always said I needed to come and talk to you the first time I got my real job, that they wish they would have listened to you when they first started working with you because they would have been so many steps ahead already. This influence, this impact, this change we get to be a part of is never something we should take for granted. It is something that we owe to ourselves, to our clients, to our family, and to our creator to constantly be in the pursuit of making better and better and better. We should strive to become a perfect RIA. TPR Nation, this has been Jamie Schlansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and